most people trying to sell AI services all end up having the same problem, because they know how to build the thing, but trying to get it in front of the right people, that's where the problem ends up coming. Because they try to post content, they try to send DMs, and they hope someone replies. But there's a faster way, and it's just one phone call away. And the reason why most people avoid it is because they simply have been doing it the wrong way. And there's a right way where they can approach these businesses with right context and showing the business owner directly the problem that they are going to solve, because they have already tested it before they even call them. Well, seems a lot, but let me quickly show you how that works. Well, here are some things you need to set straight first of all, because when it comes to cold calling, it's definitely not constantly, but it's 100% worth it, because it gives you the fastest feedback loop when it comes to outreach. Any type of outreach, it gives you the fastest feedback loop, because immediately you call up a business, you get a feedback, whether it is good or bad. Not just that, but it teaches you sales faster than anything else, which prepares you for your sales calls if you book them on calls. So it's a win-win. Not just that, but you can easily build baseline metrics fast, because you can do lots of iterations, get feedback immediately, and you know how many calls it takes you to book an appointment. And the reason why I say it has the fastest feedback loop is that you get a yes or no in a real time. And here's actually the strategy that differentiates whether this works or this doesn't work. And this is what I like to call the front load strategy. And credit goes to Michelle and Matt right here, who are actually the people that I got the idea of this front load strategy from. And this actually changes a lot, because there are two types of cold calls. The one where you make a random call and it has no proof, and it sounds like every other cold call. When a loaded call is when you test the business and find the problem, then you use that problem or that test that you did and use that as context and proof, and you sound like someone who actually did their homework, and you sound completely different from other cold callers. And this is exactly how you can design your front load test strategy. For example, ask yourself right now, what problem does your offer solve, and what can you test? For example, let's say you sell an AI receptionist. So your front load test could be calling the businesses after hours to see if they have something in place to be handling after hours call. Or let's say you sell something that has to do with speed to lead. Then what you can do with your front load test is that you can easily submit a form, maybe on one of their ads or their inquiry forms, and see how fast they get back to you, or a chatbot, or review management, or social media management. Basically get the logic. And what you do is that you basically get this list of businesses, which you can easily get by just searching for, let's say, men's sperm men's sperm businesses. Come into here, and all you have to do is just use instant data scraper, which you can see right here, and all it will do for you is that it will just scrape all these businesses, and you have a list of businesses to test this front load strategy for. And for each business that fails your front load test, it simply means that they are qualified and they have the problem that you are solving, which is basically what your offer does. And then during work hours, you come back and you call these businesses with a proof and context that you have tried their particular system and it failed, and you have a solution that basically solves that. So you can see now you're calling with proof, not hope anymore. And once you have done the test, here's basically the cold call scripts that helps you get them across and book a call. And here is actually something that a lot of people miss about cold calls, because 80% of what determines if that call will be booked or that cold call will go well is basically how you say it. So basically, the tone matters way more than the script itself. So here's basically the 8-part script with the opener, then the context, then authority. All the 8 I'll be going in depth for you right now. And here's basically the opener. You can start off by saying, oh, hey, it's this Oriental med spa that wants a reply back. You just say, oh, I'm just wondering if you could just possibly help me out for a quick moment. You can see the tonality of this is that you're coming with a bit of uncertainty. You're slightly confused, genuinely curious, not confident and polished, and it's not having that salesy aspect to it. And the reason why this works is that you sound confused and humble, the opposite of what they expect from a sales call, which sparks curiosity instead of defenses. Then once you've gone through the first part, which is basically the opener, you want to drop your proof. And what you can say is that, oh, I tried to call you after hours, but nobody answered. So you see, you want to state what actually happened, not the pitch. So what actually happened during your front load test. And you want to emphasize on the possible gaps and the outcome that they care about. And the tonality that you should use here is basically the observational tonality, not accusatory. Then after that, we want to have an authority check, which is basically you making sure that you're speaking to the right person. And how you do that is that you're not asking directly, oh, may I speak with blah, 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 blah. You just ask, oh, who should I be speaking about that specific problem? Then once they have answered, they'll probably say something like, who are you, what do you do, blah, 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 blah. Then you basically state your soft pitch. And you just say, oh, I'm not even sure if this makes sense. Then you just say, okay, I represent a group, which positions you as an organization, boosts your authority. Then you state their niche or even location, like, okay, MedSpa businesses in London or MedSpa businesses in Norwich, stuff like that. And it shows like you're actually specific to them. And then you say, would you be opposed to? Because if they say no, that is simply a yes for you, because the default setting for every person when he gets a cold call is simply to say no. So when you say, would you be opposed to? When they say no, it means a yes for you. Then after that, you hook them and you pause. And you state it like this. You state it in a way that, okay, you have something for them that could help them never miss another emergency call again. This is if you're studying let's say an AI receptionist, for example. Then after that, when you pause and you shut up, you continue with the pitch, because they might tell you, okay, go ahead, or they might bring up an objection, and that is completely fine. So once you go through that phase, you want to come to the pitch, which is basically where you state clearly what you do and how your solution works. And you make sure to end with does that make sense? And then you wait for confirmation before continuing, and do not keep talking and let them process it. So you want to shut up to as well here. There's a lot of shutting up to do. Then part 7 is basically a discovery question, where you just want to gauge a bit of what they are currently doing. Where you ask them, okay, what do you currently do when calls come in after hours? You just want to agitate a bit of pain. And after that, you want to transition the call into booking an appointment and getting that problem wiped out and solved using what you offer. And you ask them, okay, is that something you'd be opposed to having a quick call about? Then after they've probably said no, which is a yes, then after that, you want to lock it in by providing them 2 times that they can choose from. You just don't want to ask them, okay, what's your availability like? No, you give them the next 2 available slots, whether that is the next day or the day after that, or even 2 different time slots, tomorrow or the next day. Because the farther you book them out, the less likely they are to show up. So you want to book them as close as possible to that current cold call. So once you give them the 2 available time slots, they choose one, and then you confirm it by sending it to their email. And once that has been booked, you want to ask them to check their email right now and make sure that they have received it, basically. So that's basically the script, the 8-part script. You can see it's straightforward and it's actually not complex. But what you have to do is just you make sure to adapt it to your offer using the same framework, but using your niche, your proof, and your solution, basically. And the formulas could be like this for the proof, for the soft pitch, for the hook, for the pitch, and then for the discovery, basically. Yeah, quick formulas that you can use. And when it comes to handling objections, because a lot of people do have issues when you come across objections, they see it as it's a bad thing. But objection is actually not a rejection. It's simply just a word. And the easiest way to handle an objection is simply using the reframe pattern, where you first of all acknowledge what they said, then you frame it with a question, where it basically shifts their angle and their existing belief. Then you pause and you let them answer, and using logic themselves, they would realize that their objection doesn't actually hold any logical sense, if you get what I mean. Because you do not want to interrogate them and make them and change their belief by saying it yourself. That never works. You want them to change their belief themselves. So you can see, you just want to make them rethink their own objection. So here's a quick example of how the reframe strategy works. So you want to first start by acknowledging, and then you reframe it basically. So once you acknowledge, you say, okay, that's great that you have a voicemail setup. But when someone has an emergency at 8 p.m., you have a voicemail, and let's say a competitor answers, like, who does the customer book with? So you pause and you let them answer. Obviously, it's going to be the competitor. And they've simply answered their own objection themselves indirectly. Or let's say when they say they're not interested. Then you acknowledge it by simply saying, okay, I totally understand, appreciate your honesty. Can I ask you one quick question? Then you reframe once you say yes. Then say, okay, if there was a way to capture every call and if you could add a significant revenue on top of that, would you be curious to see how it works? If they say yes, you book the call directly. If they say no, then you simply move on. But then you simply don't want to give up after, let's say, one try of handling the objection. You basically want to give it at least 3 tries. Get 3 no's, then you know, okay, it's not going anywhere. But you want to be resilient and you want to keep on going. And this is basically the whole flow. You want to build your list, like I've showed you, using Instant Data Scraper and Google Mount. Then after that, you want to do your front load test. Then you cold call, then you run the scripts, then you handle the objections, then you simply book the call and you make sure to track everything in a simple Google Sheets. So now you've got it. You know how to test a business before calling them, so that eventually if you're on the call, you're different from what the other cold callers, because you have proof and you have context and you know exactly what problem that you'll be solving. Not just that, but you have proof that that problem exists in their business. And you can go ahead and start booking calls right now. But before you even start booking calls in the first place, you probably would need to package your offers. Not just that, but also positioning it and landing your first few clients. If you like that level of support, I work with people one-on-one and I help them map out their entire roadmap, actually. Not just the entire roadmap, from the offers to who they'll be selling to how they'll eventually be booking them on calls, even more in depth than this. And on top of that, also how they'll be closing those people and deliver great results. So if you like that, click the link in the description below and I'll see you on the call. However, if you'd like to do it on your own, that's completely fine. I've got a video that shows you exactly how you can build an offer. Eventually, when you pitch it on the cold call, they will easily say yes to. So go ahead and watch that right now. And that's all from me today. And I'll see you in the next one.